Hello and welcome to the Daily Record betting show where, as ever, we will look ahead to the weekend football action and attempt to win you some cash. It is, of course, a curtailed club card this weekend with the international matches taking place. Scotland obviously going to Lisbon on Sunday to face Portugal, and amongst the other games, England play the Republic of Ireland in Dublin. We'll get to them later, but the initial focus is on the club action. In Scotland, we have the SPFL Trust Trophy, and there's also lower league games being played south of the border in England. Mercifully, I'm joined by the man can only be described as a punting guru, Fraser Mackey. He's going to look at the angles and some of the things that he's seen for the weekend matches. Fraser, how are you? You all good?
Great, Swanee. Thanks very much.
We'll start in Scotland, Fraser. The SPFL Trust Trophy sees teams from different divisions obviously go head-to-head in some of the ties. And I know a couple of these matches in particular have caught your eye. If I could start, if I could, with one of your anti-post picks, actually, for the leagues, one of the leagues, League 2, East Fife. They face championship opposition in Dunfermline. I believe you'd see a potential shock in there.
Yeah, I think so. East Fife are 5-2 at home to beat struggling Dunfermline. Were put up last week by Mark Walker to beat Clyde on the show, and they did so with great aplomb, winning 5-1. I think it's just a case of taking on a dodgy odds-on away shot here. And first of all, I suppose East Fife have been back in terrific form since losing their first home game. Sorry, the first game in League 2 to Elgin. That was a bit of a surprise, but they've got back. They're back motoring now for Dick Campbell, unsurprisingly, really. I think the last 4 games have been won by an aggregate of 13-2. They've only conceded 2 goals. So I just think they're getting going now, and they're playing a team that just can't get going, even though they're 2 divisions above. It just looks right for a shock. Dunfermline actually went to New Bayview in pre-season, got beat 2-0. Not that form line really should be worth much. 6 weeks later, but they had bad vibes from that trip there where Matty Todd got injured, and it just continued. Just a luckless run that Dunfermline and James McPake seem to have had for maybe 18 months now in terms of injuries. Now he's 2 or 3 weeks away before he gives them a boost and comes back. Terrific player for them. They just seem to get knock after knock, and of course the bad vibes have continued. Just upstairs as well at the club with the German owners want to be selling up. It just seems a kind of luckless run. I do feel sorry for James McPake. I do think they will get better as the season goes on when things calm down. But right now, it's a time to continue taking them on. I think we've done that in weeks previous. The likes of Nathan Austin of East Fife will look forward. Former Falkirk striker will look forward to this one. He's got 5 goals in his last 2 games. And
goals, isn't it, Fraser? East Fife are scoring with great regularity at the moment. There's just so many threats in the team, which makes the price attractive.
Yeah, and I think so. Once now they've got started, I just feel they've got the wind at their back, and they'll enjoy the idea of taking on a team that's winless. I think they've just got 1 point so far in the championship, and when it comes to things like confidence and just having that edge at home, that's the kind of dynamic that leads you to believe that taking a nice chunky price about a home team that can overcome a 2 division handicap and go and beat struggling Dunfermline, I would think, on Saturday.
I should mention there are ties on Sunday as well, just for anybody who's doing their coupons and doing their, if you like to get your Saturday accumulator on, a couple of games in the Trust Trophy on Sunday. One of which is at Somerset Park, and I believe that's also of interest, Fraser, as you look at the card. We'll get that one out of the way. We're talking about Sunday.
It's playing the new manager bounce really here as much as anything else. Although I did see Wraith last week against Livingston in defeat and was fairly impressed by them. Now, they go to Ayr, who are flying high at the top of the championship, and had their first minor blip, I guess. Only drawing at the aforementioned Dunfermline last Saturday afternoon. But back to this new manager bounce again. Neil Collins is in the door now at Kirkcaldy, and I saw Raith played the old "he was our first choice from the start" card after appointing him well after going round various other names such as Peter Leavin and David Healing getting rebuffed by them.
We're almost at Stuart Baxter.
Yeah. So, but listen, Neil's actually. I've got a funny feeling Neil's going to be a very good coach. Manager actually. He started off in America with the Tampa Bay Rowdies and Barnsley, who do their due diligence on bosses and a lot of kind of data stat based stuff. Plucked him to be their manager, and he was actually having a great season, or so he thought. Having a great season with Barnsley last year. If anyone knows the kind of vagaries of boardrooms and how quickly they can make decisions at bizarre times, he'll have some sympathy with his predecessor Ian Murray, because Neil Collins got fired one game before the end of last season in League Two with his team sitting fifth in League One and ready to go into the playoffs. So he managed for 45 of that 46 marathon game season. And listen, had their ups and downs, but we're in a position to compete in the playoffs. So they sacked him and got absolutely nowhere after that. I just read a bit about them last weekend against Livingston, and even David Martindale himself admitted they were really, his team were really unlucky. They had lots going forward, and actually Lewis Jimison on loan from St Mirren looks as if he might dropping down a Division B.
He's a good player. Stephen Robinson liked him. Fraser, for whatever reason, it just didn't happen, but he did like him.
I think he still does like him, and he wants him back, whether it is January or the end of the season. He wants him to come back ready to compete for a place in that St Mirren team. He'll be keeping a very, very close eye on him, and I liked the fact he was going to a team that he thought would be competing at the top of the championship. I think they still will be. Yeah, they've got loads of players to come back from injury as well. They've also been a team that's been quite unlucky in that sense. So I think Neil can pick this up and go somewhere with them over the weeks to come. Look, it's really tough at Somerset. I'm not pretending it's going to be at all easy there. I just wonder, could Ayr lose a percentage or two, having had a great start in the league and going for the title? Maybe just a bit of mental letdown. Whereas, playing a cup competition here, new manager for Raith comes in and maybe gets a tune out of them straight away. They were only beaten 1-0 by Livingston, and it was goalkeeper error, Kevin Dabrowski, spilling a shot that he should have saved. But other than that, at the back, they look quite tight. Paul Hanlon looks good down a level as well. He's come back from injury and just slotted in perfectly at the weekend there. So I can see Raith being a team that's going to pick up. Whether it happens on Saturday, I'm not sure, but I think there's enough juice in the price to suggest that they might be able to nick something down at Ayr. And the way I'm going to play this one is to back them 5-4, I think, in the double chance. So that also puts us on the draw. We get paid out on the draw as well as a Raith win. Of course, if Raith win, you end up kicking yourself. You never took the bigger price, but
5-4 still seems a reasonable price for the draw.
Yeah, against a team that, to be honest, against an Ayr team we don't actually have anything personal against as punters at the moment. They've had a terrific start to the season. As I say, their only blip was that 1-1 draw in the league. Certainly, the only blip was that 1-1 draw at Dunfermline last weekend. But I think this one's closer than the odds suggest.
Going through the remainder of the ties, Fraser, for myself, I thought Partick Thistle may have been a little bit big, a shade of odds on at home to Alloa. Listen, I know it's not been a great start for Thistle, and Alloa are in pretty good form themselves. But Chris Doolan's team, I thought, just seemed to get back on the bike a little bit, so to speak. Last weekend, they got a good 3-0 win, and I kind of get the feeling that Thistle will be wanting to try and keep some momentum up because it was a stuttering start to the season. So, listen, given the separation in the divisions, I thought 5-6 was a fair enough price for them at Firhill. Going through the other games, Fraser, was there anything in particular you thought was worthy of a mention, even if it's not confirmed as a bet, just something that caught your eye, a couple of other ties maybe? Yeah,
listen, first of all, to go with your Thistle thoughts there, I was a little bit taken aback at that price as well, at that 5-6. Obviously, Alloa will do look like they're going to be a team competing for promotion to try and get into the Championship. But, very early days yet. And
it was more a price thing for me, Fraser, to be honest with you. I expect when I saw the ties before they were priced up, I would have thought Thistle you were looking at maybe 8 to 13, maybe even as short as 4 to 7. I was pretty shocked when I saw 5 to 6, which is probably influenced it.
Yeah, maybe even shorter. Something like a 4 to 7 would have made sense to me. So that would certainly bring a 5 to 6 into your consideration for either a bet as a single or definitely lumping Partick Thistle in with doubles and trebles this weekend. There were a couple I just definitely want to mention because they're intriguing ties and they're really interesting. One is obviously anytime you see Spartans going in against a team from a higher division. They did the business against Ross County. Obviously, Livingston are now a Championship club, but that's who they take on. They're 4-1 Spartans to beat Livingston. They've teed themselves up a tie against Aberdeen, obviously, now in the Premier Sports Cup. And as I mentioned, saw Livingston last weekend, but they I think they're a fairly durable lot. Look pretty tight against Wraith to get that clean sheet. They've replaced Shamal George, I think, quite adequately with a French keeper, Jerome Pryor, who is a former Bordeaux player, got a good pedigree and a good age at 28 as well. I did like Shamal George, but he's signed for Wickham now. They've just got plenty of Premiership class still in the team, like Stephen Kelly and the two brought in from St Johnstone, Ryan McGowan and Stevie May. They are enjoying winning again, or at least not getting beat again in the Championship. And they got knocked out of the cups by Celtic and Rangers last year. I don't sniff out a shock so much there. I don't think Livingston are as potentially vulnerable as Ross County were going there. The other tie that kind of took my eye was Queen of the South against Airdrie, principally because eyes are on Airdrie anyway after a start to the season, which has really not convinced at all. Much to my chagrin, actually, because they're one of my anti-post bets in the Championship. I thought they'd have a great season, was encouraged by win on opening day. But it looks to me Rhys McCabe's making loads of changes from game to game. He doesn't seem to know his best side, what he wants at the moment, and it sort of makes them vulnerable. He relied on his substitutes last weekend against Hamilton to come back from 2-0 down to get a 2-2 draw. Another defeat could have been really damaging for them now. Obviously, in the league, I'm hoping to get a bit of a lift from that and potentially could put in a challenge at the top end of the pitch. But at the moment, huge question marks over this Airdrie team. And they go down to Dumfries, where Queen of the South are about 23-10 as a home team, which kind of appealed, obviously. They might be a contender for promotion this season to get themselves back up to the Championship. Peter Murphy certainly deserves his chance at a higher level to see what he can do as a manager. They've won their 2 home games, lost their 2 away, so nothing spectacular about them, I don't think, to suggest they're going to maybe have a long run in the Cup or put it up to Airdrie in this one, but they might be worth considering, and it's just one to keep an eye on for the weekend if the price gets bigger, and also certainly from a perspective of taking on Airdrie at the minute before they sort themselves out, which I certainly hope they do at some stage.
I think with bets like that, Fraser, would you be of an opinion, just in an overall view that, they're not, it wouldn't be something you would risk possibly in your accumulator, but, you're getting more than double your money just for a small stakes single. For example, if somebody wanted to play it, that would probably be the best way to play it rather than wreck an accumulator. Just have a single bet at that price.
Yeah, exactly. If they go something like 5-2, as I say, the question marks over Airdrie suggest to me that they're vulnerable at the moment. This is the time to take advantage. I wouldn't put anyone off having a single on Queen of the South.
Taking us nicely there, Fraser, down the M74 as we continue to head beyond Dumfries and into England. Again, no top-tier action. A lot of the games off. Other games off. Down below that as well due to the international fixtures. Now, I say that we are heading to England, but actually, Fraser, I think it's Wales we are going to kick us off this weekend when you're looking at the action south of the border.
Yeah, my heart sinks sometimes when it comes to international weekend now, and there's the lower league card in England's absolutely decimated, taking away a lot of the fun from my weekend when I see that. Fortunately, we need to get back to the Saturday action as soon as possible. Hopefully for the long winter ahead that I like. But
I believe that's highlight. I believe that's the highlight of your Champions League evenings. Fraser is keeping abreast of the action in League One and League Two south of the border.
100% with these multiple anti-post investments to keep us going through the winter. That's where my focus tends to be on those Tuesday nights to keep me entertained. And certainly what can entertain us hopefully on Saturday is certainly to throw into the accumulators is Wrexham up in League One now to beat Shrewsbury, which I thought was you talk about a big price. Some punters might not like me talking about that as an odds-on shot at 1-2, but to me this is a big price because one team is going one way and the other I fully expect to be going in the other direction at the bottom. Shrewsbury are currently fives for the drop at 4-6, and Wrexham are 3-1 for promotion. They've got some great results. Phil Parkinson's team already up in League One, beating I think Peterborough, beating Reading, beating Wickham. 3 teams have also picked up some decent results, and they drew at Bolton, who were second favourites for this division. So they've got cast iron goals and Jack Marriott as well in this division, in the third tier. I just don't see any problem with this one. Perhaps the price is slightly bigger because Shrewsbury got a nice win themselves last weekend, getting off the mark, 3-0 victory over Leyton Orient, but I think they'll be strugglers this season as well, and they did so with about 28% possession. So can't see them being able to pull off that miracle again. And I would make Wrexham the cornerstone of any weekend ACCA.
If I could add to that, Fraser, in League Two, in a similar sort of vein to yourself, again, I'm more of an accumulator one. I thought I was quite interested in Notts County. I thought they were a price at home to Accrington Stanley. They've started the season really well, and which is in complete contrast to their opposition tomorrow, who haven't done well. The big players at Notts County, like I said, David McGoldrick, Jody Jones, are off to a flyer this season. And one of the elements of their play, which I noted when I was checking through some stuff, was their domination of games. It's been very interesting. Listen, they're giving goals away. The suggestion is that they're gettable at the back, but going through the numbers, they've got the best possession stats in the entire division after the games so far this season that have been played. They've averaged 66% through their games so far. So you wonder, although the defence is possibly weak, you wonder if Accrington Stanley can actually get enough of the ball to test it. Notts County won at Swindon last week. They beat Grimsby the week before. And they look to me like one to stick into the accumulators. Now, I have to come clean. We do this obviously due to production situations. There's a couple of hours of gap between we're doing our captions and we're doing our recording. 7 to 10 that was originally available. There is a sea of blue, as it's known. They've been smashed up. So obviously other people think the same. The price is contracting. So I just did another look before we came on. Given the fact that the defence is maybe a little iffy, and even if Accrington can spring the odd break, if you wanted to do it as a single, I suppose you could do Notts County to win and both teams to score it at 9-5, almost 2-1 for that, because that has been how they've won their 2 games so far, winning and conceding. But for the accumulator purposes, I'll stick with the win-only market. And listen, if you put that in with your Wrexham, Fraser and Partick Thistle, that's a treble of around 7-2. And if you throw East Fife in on top of it, you're talking about a 4-timer at 14-1. So I think that may be a way to go about the weekend. Is there anything elsewhere, Fraser, in the English leagues? Again, not potentially betting wise that you're concrete on, but some games that may be of interest.
Yeah, I guess I was kind of tempted by I'll start in League Two. MK Dons home to Walsall. I was tempted again by a shock as such here. It's mainly just blowing the trumpet again for MK Dons being a team to take on this season. I think I'd mentioned that in my post preview. They for some reason appear to think it's a great idea to ignore getting some proper strikers in if they want to go up this season. I think the only one you would class as a proper number 9 is Callum Hendry there after his move from Salford. They did add young lad from Middlesbrough, Sonny Finch, but he got injured in his first game last week. So to me, they're still a bit light up top. And for now, Mike Williamson's team will be one to take on. So again, I'm tempted by something like the sort of draw no bet double chance thing about Walsall, who will be one of the teams up there around about the kind of playoff zone. League One, probably the other game to mention is it's a cracker. It's the one I'll have my eye on mostly this weekend, Charlton against Rotherham. And again, it's an anti-post consideration for myself. I put up Rotherham as one of my main bets for the season, and so far it's been a really sticky, stodgy start from them. Boy, did they need a helping hand to score for the first time in the league last weekend after 3 blanks. Got a dodgy penalty late on against Huddersfield to equalise. They needed Huddersfield to get into 10 men, and it's been pretty ugly so far. And I'm looking for signs. I was thrilled they won 2-1, but I'm looking for signs of a proper kind of scalp, and I think Charlton would represent that because they've looked quite tidy. They rattled off 3 wins in a row before meeting with a defeat to Reading. Things are just settling down in League One at the moment. Teams are struggling to win all their games. As I say, Charlton did fine the first 3 and then lost to Reading, who'd been beaten soundly the weekend before. So Charlton have got Greg Docker, familiar players to us. Greg Docherty, former Rangers player who went to Hull, and also Alan Campbell, one of manager Nathan Jones's favourites from the time when he got Luton back up. And Jones is kind of rebuilding his managerial reputation at Charlton. I'm slightly concerned that Charlton could be a threat to Rotherham and Birmingham this season in League One. So I'll have my eye on that one. Great interest to me, and I hope Rotherham can finally get a big result, which will hopefully launch their promotion campaign properly.
Is that the thing? Is that just as a little aside, Fraser, before we move on to the international football? Is that something that you always try and keep in mind, punting wise? That if you have an angle at the start of the season, in the first 2, 3, 4 weeks of the season, your team can have some teething troubles, and it's kind of important to stick by it and have the courage of your convictions. No one's suggesting following people off cliffs, but don't panic. I think you made the reference to Aston Villa losing 5 in the opening day last year at St James's Park. Look at the season they had. So, if you have an East Fife have shown, with your own bet yourself, they've really come in at their own. It didn't take long. It's just sometimes it can just take teams a little bit longer to get going. And with so many fixtures in the English lower leagues as well, you've plenty of time to make ground up.
You've absolutely got tons of time to make up in England if you've hit a struggling start. And listen, I've seen teams hit the top of the table, maybe 3 wins and a draw in the first 4 matches, and they're actually relegation candidates. There's vagaries of the fixture list to take into consideration as well. Never underplay that. The fact that some teams might have had a very, very kind schedule. Since we're touched on the subject, it's interesting to see how Aberdeen have been quite fortunate this season in the Scottish Premiership. If you think about it, their home games have been against the 2 teams coming off European Thursday nights, St Mirren and Kilmarnock. Look, all we can do is win those games.
Fraser, at the start of next month, Hearts go to Pittodrie. Where are they the Thursday before? Dynamo Minsk.
It's just,
and that game could be Azerbaijan, I think, or something. So sometimes it falls for you. And then the flip side to what you're saying, look at Kilmarnock. They got Celtic on Flag Day, the Aberdeen away 3 days after they got back from Norway in a European tie. So
it's definitely something. It's important to keep an eye on that, and it might be, if we still believe, for example, in Kilmarnock, and why wouldn't you with Derek McInnes in charge? There might be prices in the weeks to come because they've just got off to a bad start. But dig a bit deeper, and you discover that they really didn't stand much of a chance with all these European ties for the first time, and of course they played Celtic on Flag Day. So the flip side of that is, are Aberdeen as good as the results suggest? You let the prices be your guide in the weeks to come on that, but it's important to take a note of things like a team could have had just been playing the toughest schedule in the first 6 weeks of the season. When things become easier, then that's when they start to fly.
Sound piece of advice, that, Fraser. As we mentioned previously, international matches across Europe, the globe, the world. So before we get having a little chat about Scotland and their game against Portugal. There's, as I say, there's games everywhere. England and Ireland is obviously Saturday at 5 o'clock. So I would imagine there'll be a few people tuning into that. You've got a couple of new managers at the helm. Heimar Hallgrimsson for Ireland, Lee Casley with England. Both teams, both managers wouldn't want to be losing. And I think if you look down the history of the fixture, they're usually pretty tight, those games, Fraser. So I would say you'd probably be looking at a low scoring one. And I suppose if I was going to have a bet, I'd probably have a look at England to win the game while keeping a clean sheet. That's 11-10 odds against. As I say, I would imagine it would be quite tight. Not the managers won't want to give much away. And England have made a few changes to the squad, so I wouldn't imagine they'll be completely fluid at this stage. So might be a tight one, might be a low scoring one. I'll take them to win with a clean sheet at 11-10. Fraser, Scotland are in Portugal. I'd imagine it's hard to find something tasty. I mean, the match with Poland on Thursday night was obviously a frustrating one for Steve Clarke and for the supporters. But to me, they played very well, reasonably well first half, only to be undone by 2 moments and be 2 goals down. The fight back was great. They looked like they were the team that were going to go on and win it, and then just as seems to be happening with Scotland and Steve Clarke at the moment, there was a sting in the tail to bring some disappointment. I mean, how did you assess it, and how do you assess the game in Lisbon, both in a general term and if there's any possible betting opportunities in there that you may or may not have seen?
I just think it's frustrating in so many ways. It was just a double whammy of what I was thinking was, why couldn't we have played a bit more like this during the summer?
Yeah.
Because the performance in itself was far more aggressive, obviously less passive than the summer, and I just saw the chance creation, shots. I mean, what were we? 17 shots in 3 games during the summer. Yeah. Which some of the stuff was unwatchable, and I didn't have a problem with Steve Clarke's starting selection last night. I know some folk did, saying, "Oh, it's the same old," and was he too late bringing on the likes of your Doak and Gold and then Shankland? But I didn't have a problem with that because they actually played in a different fashion. Things to be so. But so there's enormous frustration that, again, we didn't play like that during the summer. Enormous frustration with the result, which we'd have taken a 2-2, and maybe even we deserve to edge that 3-2 probably. Let's face it, and the fact that Poland team aren't great shakes either at the moment. So a huge opportunity missed. Really, that was frustrating. But in terms of looking forward, I think there is excitement when I see Billy Gilmour, Scott McTominay in the middle of the park. To me, there's excitement when you see Ben Doak coming on and finally getting his chance. He's on loan at Middlesbrough this season, and I think all of us will be really interested to see how he gets on there, hoping he stays fit after missing the Euros. And there's no doubt that, certainly for now, as an impact player off the bench, he's going to be a guy that can make an impact in games, and he set up Anthony Ralston for that assist for the Scott McTominay goal. So I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more of Ben Doak. One of the biggest takeaways, again, and I know it does seem obvious, but it's not been wholly reflective in some of the correct first goal scorer prices I've seen, is this Scott McTominay factor for Scotland at the moment. He's scored 9 in his last 16 international games, and listen, if he's still available at 25-1 for first goal scorer in this game in Portugal. Now, you're probably thinking, well, Scotland will be struggling to score goals against the best team in the section, and that's fair enough, but McTominay's scored against big nations before. Of course, he famously got the double against Spain, which was the result, was a cornerstone of our qualification campaign for the last Euros. A little word of caution is that 25-1 is with Paddy Power, who I think still win only. You'd have to go to 20-1 to Sky Bet, but shop around. Not everyone's got the prices up yet. If you can get the each way value in that, or play first and last goal scorer for Scott.
And you should add, Fraser, as well, to back up your theory there. Were it not for a how will I describe it? Extremely harsh officiating decision. He's the first goal scorer against Spain away. In that campaign. So That flags up your bet again.
I mean, he's everywhere. I watched last night, and he's breaking into breaking the lines, gets into the box so often. As he's a set piece threat, as we saw. With that again, lucky the goal was chalked off because of it grazed his hand after it came off his head first time. He's such a great physical presence, an absolute menace in the opposition box. I couldn't resist a little look at actually seeing where he stands now. He's joint 17th top goal scorer in Scottish national team history. He probably only needs a couple, 2 or 3 more, and he could get them in no time at all to get himself up in the kind of top 10 before long. It's an absolutely terrific record, and while he's still available at massive prices like that, 25 to 1, 20 to 1. Then I think we've just got to keep playing. You can cheer a Scotland goal and get your bet up at the same time with a classy player who's just landed himself a big move to Napoli. The guy's fearless. He's got a great eye for goal, and he's just clearly involved in so much of Scotland's play, and even more so perhaps going forward the way Steve Clarke's going to play. You think he's just going to be one of the key men now, and he's just going to keep adding to these goals. 9 and 16 caps is terrific. He's got 10 overall. Obviously, Manchester United thought they don't need him around, but Scotland certainly do going forward. And it's let's keep him on our side for first goal scorer bets until these prices go down. Because listen, if he was 10 to 1, I wouldn't put it up at all. But at double that price, let's get with him. I think otherwise Portugal are 1 to 5, something like that, to win the game. We're not going to argue. We're not going to argue with that. And positive punters might have a look at a nibble at that 14 to 1 Scotland. But given that we're finding multiple ways to go around losing these games just now, I don't think I'm attracted by that at all. But I'm expecting, as most would do, a Scotland defeat, something like 2-1, maybe 3-1, and let's hope Napoli's new signing is the one to get the goal for Scotland.
Hopefully that caps off a brilliant weekend for us betting-wise, Fraser, after a Saturday and Sunday afternoons of success. Thank you very much for joining us today again and giving us your insights. And thank you to everyone for watching the Daily Record Betting Show. We'll see you next week.